All right, with Christmas nearly upon us and the Birds set to take on the New York Giants, Anthony DeBona of Outside DiBirds joined to talk about what the Eagles need to do to get back on track, plus the reason for optimism around Matt Patricia and expectations for the offense. But first, let's run it. With the Giants coming to town, it should be a way to have some positivity, right? We've heard from everyone, I think everyone just about believes this, but winning cures all, or winning cures a lot. I don't know if a winning cures all, but winning will certainly help, and we haven't done that in a while. Big win because we're going to have the black jerseys. We're going to have Boston Scott, the Giant Killer. Like I say, Giants coming to town. What do you expect to see from the Eagles? Maybe it's a lesser opponent. I don't want to say anything is a guaranteed win, but again, we know what the Giants are. We're hopeful for what the Eagles, I think at this point, the Eagles are like 13-point favorites going into it. But can we be pretty assured that we should go into this? How hopeful are we with the Giants coming to town?
I mean, I'm about as hopeful as I can be. Nothing certain, like you said, given especially the way the team has played the last few weeks. But, I mean, the Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL right now. I know I've talked about it on Twitter how much, as being an Italian-American, how much I love the Tommy DeVito story and whatnot. But that offense is just not very good. And if this defense, I feel like they played pretty good for the most part against the Seahawks last week, besides that final drive. I feel like the Giants' offensive line is a huge weakness. And if this defensive front can't get going against that team, then we might as well just fast forward to next season because it's going to be really, really discouraging. So, I mean, I feel good. I feel like they should win this game pretty handily. I mean, the line's kind of a little surprising given how the Eagles have looked the past couple of weeks, but that kind of just shows you how bad people think the Giants are. So, I mean, I'm hopeful. Boston Scott, he always goes off against the Giants, so that's going to be fun to see. I was kind of like in the dumps a little bit. I tweeted about this also. But once the Eagles announced that they're wearing the black jerseys, those are my favorite uniforms. They're 4-1 under Sirianni when they do wear them. The only loss was with Gardner Minshew in Dallas. So that's promising too. So all the signs are pointing in the right direction. So hopefully it equals a W.
I'm with it, yes. We will have a sound the alarms, fire everyone, blow it all up if we lose to the Giants. I think, as if it hasn't escalated to the point already, we will for sure get that if that's the case on Christmas Day. And come on, I mean, nobody wants that on Christmas, right? It would totally ruin it. We'd be so spoiled. Oh, great, Christmas was looking good until all of a sudden the Giants. So, but I would be shocked as well. You mentioned the defense, though, and let's talk about Matt Patricia a little bit because he does come in, against Seattle, first game, calling the plays. And I'm with you. I think he coached a very good game, a lot of great play calling until the final drive. And I've said it multiple times. I still don't think that he deserves the blame for the loss. I think that the offense should have been able to finish that game multiple ways. And we talked about, with Jalen and the offense, and everyone knows the issues and the concerns, and Quez Watkins we can possibly get to in a second as well. But still, the defense was the one that allowed the final touchdown. So little concern there. But in general, what were your thoughts on Matt Patricia, the differences from a Sean Desai scheme or just a little bit of nuances there? And overall, again, moving forward, the Giants, like we're talking about, not really the best challenge. But what are you expecting from Matt Patricia? And I guess how optimistic are you on that side?
I'm very optimistic, especially after last week. I feel like the biggest takeaway I had was I know you could kind of throw that last drive in the trash. I mean, he already admitted that he screwed up. He was trying different things out, whatnot. But what I loved the most was how much he was using the young guys and where he was using the young guys. So we saw Sidney Brown kind of play that hybrid linebacker safety role where he was all over the field. He played double-digit snaps as a free safety, as a nickel, in the box. He was using them all over, which is what he did at Illinois and what made him so good. So it was annoying to see Sean Desai not give him those opportunities. But it was very encouraging to see Matt Patricia give it to him in literally his first game. So with only a week of worth of prep, he kind of threw him in there, and it worked. He had that rough second half where he missed a bunch of tackles, but that's kind of that give and take you're going to have with an aggressive player like him. So, but I also like Keely Ringo. Keely Ringo looked great. I wish he was out there more. I wish he was out there instead of James Bradberry, but whatever the case may be, that's probably not going to happen, but we'll see. And then Eli Ricks, Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks, they combined to allow 0 catches. So, you can't really complain about that. The young guys look great. He kind of seemed like Matt Patricia was holding an open audition to see who was going to kind of play opposite of James Bradberry. But the way it played out, it seems like both of them should be playing over him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this week. What kind of surprised me was he made more drastic changes than I thought. So we saw Hassan Reddick and Nolan Smith with their hand in the dirt, which we really didn't see in the 4-eye technique, which we really didn't see at all with Sean Desai. And some people were upset about that. They thought it was a waste, but it kind of just mixes up the looks. You're not sending out the same look every time. So, I mean, it's something to work with. It's another tool in the box to use. So it was encouraging to see how many things he did, and I'm excited to see what he does over these next 3 or 4 games.
I'm with you. I think there's a lot of positives you could take away. The negative, and I feel like the majority is in favor of this too, of James Bradberry possibly not playing near as often or as near as many times. Keeler Ringo was good. Eli Ricks was good. At this point, I've said it. Sorry, James Bradberry, but you can't find whatever it was that you had last season. It's infuriating at times, or most of the time. He's made a couple plays here and there, but again, at this point, it's like, I know that you got the youth there. I know that Darius Slay is out, probably not until the playoffs. He might make it back, I don't know, for the final game. But I'd imagine with the knee surgery, they'd take it a little cautious, say that we don't need to force anything here. It is time. You kind of alluded to it, but it's time to bench James Bradberry, right? There's no reason he should still be out there over those guys.
I mean, I feel like that's obviously the decision just to sit him. But it's just, I don't know if the Eagles are going to be, I don't know, courageous enough, or however you want to put it, to actually say, hey, we screwed this contract up and this guy's going to sit as we're making a run to the playoffs. Like, it's kind of a crazy move to make given the amount of money that he has and the amount of guaranteed money he has. But at the same time, you have to do what's best for the team. And Nick Sirianni always talks about doing what's best for the team, making changes, seeing what's wrong. If you really are about what you talk about, then they should bench James Bradberry. I mean, he could still be active. He could still – what I liked against Dallas, where Sean Desai used him, where they had him kind of in that like linebacker role where he was able to cover a tight end or a running back. You don't really want him against slot receiver because we've already seen he's not that fast to deal with that. So, I mean, if you can kind of bring him in certain packages, maybe like 15, 20 snaps a game or whatever. But I think the days of leaving him on an island outside on his own are just over. And I'd rather just see what the young guys have. I mean, even though he missed the game, he's given up the 9 touchdowns this season, which is tied for the most in the NFL. And then he's also given up 611 receiving yards. And that's, I think, 12th in the league. So it's just, you pay this guy to be a top 10, top 20 corner, and he's literally looking like one of the worst in the league. And I kind of defended him last week, but it's just, I mean, the game against the Seahawks said enough to me where he just needs, I don't know how you want to phrase it, if they want to phrase it as a mental reset or whatever the case may be, but he just needs to sit down for a bit.
Yeah, something. It needs something. And I'll be honest too. I mean, in the offseason, when we signed James Bradberry, I was like, hey, this is one of the best signings that you could make. I really felt like him coming back, he's going to have the potential there. How he did last season, obviously. I thought it'd be great. And obviously, again, we just haven't seen that play out as you mentioned and alluded to with the stats and the eye test and everything there. So you also mentioned the slot corner position, though. We may be getting, or I guess we are getting, but I'm curious how quickly Avonte Maddox is shocking, how fast he's come back from the pec injury, the torn pec. But he was a full participant the past couple days, and there's a chance that he'd play against the Giants. I was going to be surprised, if he was really playing in the regular season now. But the fact that he's getting in the practices is alluding toward him maybe playing, and I think we all realize that's a good thing, right? We'll take the bodies, especially with Avonte Maddox in the slot. You've got Bradley Roby, you've got some of the other guys too, so you can kind of rotate that around. But I guess how surprised are you that Avonte Maddox is getting back so quickly, and what type of benefit do you really expect him to make in the defense?
I mean, I'm excited. That's a great piece to add back. I feel like he was a key contributor to whenever their secondary is playing good, Avonte Maddox is usually healthy. It's just a matter of him staying healthy has always been the issue. So for him to be able to return for this playoff stretch would be amazing. But at the same time, I kind of want to temper my expectations because in that New England game, he actually was kind of targeted quite a bit, gave up like 90-plus yards, 10 catches. So I'm just excited to see him return. I want to see how Matt Patricia uses him because he might mix it up and put him at a little safety or a nickel hybrid. Or because Avonte Maddox, although he's small, he's physical and he's not afraid to get involved in the running game, which I think they need right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had him and Bradley Roby on the field together in some ways in like a dime package or something like that. Because I think Avonte Maddox, even though he's small, he can kind of defend tight ends, and Patricia can kind of get creative with him. So I'm sure they'll bring him along slowly. I don't think he's going to dominate the nickel snaps right away, but just having him back is just huge, and I really wasn't expecting it this early. But I did see people point out Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's injury. I know people don't bring him up in Philadelphia anymore, but he tore his pec around the same time as Avonte Maddox, and he's returning this week also. So it seems like I guess this is kind of the correct timeline, and I'm excited to see him back regardless.
Yeah, well, we will take it. It is amazing how quickly, not even just, torn pecs, but just injuries in general. It feels like everyone's moving back faster. I know modern advances in medicine and all that, but still, I was amazed. We will certainly take it, but again, fingers crossed, no need to rush it. We know his injury history. Hopefully he could stay healthy for however many games that ends up being this season. But speaking of health, we are going to be out without probably a couple. I mean, for sure, Landon Dickerson is what it's looking like with the thumb surgery that he had. He didn't practice. I highly doubt that they're going to try to force him back against a Giants team like we've been talking about here. There's the potential, you've got linebackers Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham who've missed some time. Cam Jurgens, thankfully, does look like he'd be returning. But overall, with the offensive line, we've seen some rotation throughout the year. Guys who either missed one game or can't stay healthy, and Cam Jurgens who missed a couple games. The running attack has been kind of, all over the place. It's like, hey, we need Cam Jurgens, or hey, we need to do this, or hey, we got to be more physical, or we're just missing assignments, whatever the case may be. Landon Dickerson is, no small loss. I mean, that's a good player, we all know, but it is the Giants. So again, I'd ask, are there any main concerns with the rushing attack or with the offense? Even going into it without a Landon Dickerson on Monday.
I mean, I'm not too concerned. But I'm not sure the Giants are a team that you want to run the ball against, because not they're this great stout run defense, but they load the box, they blitz at the second highest rate in the NFL. They play single high coverage at the fourth highest rate in the NFL. So I feel like, and they play man at the fourth highest rate in the NFL. So I feel like this is a team that you can kind of use Devonta Smith and use AJ Brown. But at the same time, we saw them last week try to do that, and Jalen Hurts threw a bunch of interceptions. So, you just have to be cautious. They have to mix it up a little bit. I think what really encouraged me the most about the offense last week was the opening drive of the first half and the opening drive of the second half, where they went 12 to 15 plays, 75 yards for a touchdown. So it was just like, whatever they did in those two drives, I need that person calling plays for the entire game, because it honestly looked like a different team. And I feel like that's exactly what you can do against the Giants, regardless of who's playing offensive line. It seems like Sue Alpeta is going to step in, switch over to left guard, and replace Landon Dickerson with Cam Jurgens returning. So, I feel like he did a good enough job last week. I don't think Jalen Hurts was sacked once. So if they can keep Jalen Hurts clean, I feel like this could be a bounce-back game for the offense. And the running game, I feel like last week Jalen Hurts struggled in the passing game, but it was easily his best game as a runner. So if they can kind of mix it up and get back to the team that we saw last year, it would be a wonderful thing, because, like I said, 3 games left before you get to the playoffs, and things on offense need to be heading in the right direction quickly, because otherwise it's going to be a struggle. We got
to find something. I'm with you. It's the first couple of series, I was saying the same thing in Seattle. I was like, oh my gosh, hey, we got a little bit of motion offense here. We got to hurry up. I hadn't seen that all year. Have to keep the defense on their heels and just keep the pressure applied. And then all of a sudden, it was like, well, either you did change play callers, you went back to whoever it was, or the scripted play calling ran out, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we got to do this off the cuff here, and it wasn't working. So please, whatever they were doing, keep it rolling on those first couple of possessions. We do need to see it. Hopefully this is kind of the get right. I think that's what a lot of people are expecting, obviously, going up against the Giants. But you talk about the offense too, and what we saw last season. Now there's a lot of arguments. I understand. You can make the case of, hey, the schedule wasn't as difficult. The team's not adjusting as much to Jalen as they are this season now. Now obviously too, the differences in play callers. But the question that Sirianni guided, I know you've heard it, everyone's heard it by now, but Sirianni was asked about the last play call to A.J. Brown trying to go for a deep shot, and was he trying for, or what was the reasoning there, right? And so he says he's trying for pass interference. Now, sure, that's probably a part of it, but then he doubles down on it, and he's like, no, that was like essentially he's saying like that was the main thing. And he goes into the nuances of why you make that play call and all that. He did, to give him credit, at the very end, he said AJ's made plays like that before. So yes, you take a deep shot, one-on-one, AJ Brown, but the safety in Julian Love is coming over. We all know because he picked it off, but he's close enough there. So it's not really a true one-on-one situation. But for Sirianni to say they're trying for a pass interference when all you need is 15 yards, you got Jake Elliott, the best field goal kicker in the league, who's going to be automatic. How alarming is that to you? It's just crazy to hear him say that, but he kind of backed it up with that statement. How alarming is that one?
It was so frustrating to listen to, because it's just like, I understand he's probably, and other reporters have said this, where like he's probably saying that to cover for Jalen Hurts, and maybe he truly thinks that he should have went to Devonta Smith with the ball, or whatever the case may be, Kenneth Gainwell, whatever it was. But at the same time, it's just like, you don't say the quiet things out loud. Like, even if you believe that, just don't say that publicly, because it's just not a good look. Nobody's ever going to say, I mean, it's just, it's so frustrating because you can't just say that you're relying on a penalty, because in that situation, like you said, you have Jake Elliott. All you need is just a couple more yards just to give him a chance. And I feel like going back to last season and even earlier this season, this offense was so good in situational football. Those 2-minute drills, end of the game, end of the half. It seemed like Nick Sirianni really had a stranglehold on how to use timeouts and whatnot and how to attack in those situations, make the most of them. But it's just, that was such a struggle. And to say that was your reasoning, I'm surprised reporters didn't just laugh in his face. I know they can't do it, obviously, but it's just such a crazy answer to hear. It was like they had to look at each other like, is he serious right now? Like, it's just such a bad look. And I feel like, I know he's doing it to protect somebody, probably Jalen Hurts, but it's just, you can't say that out loud. It's just, it's tough.
I'm with you. Yeah, it's one of those that it is. You can say it once, but when you say it a second time and you go into the reasonings for it and really try to defend it, I'm like, come on, man, you can't. And I think all of us know this, that there's a ton of what Sirianni says, like you're alluding to. There's a ton of what Sirianni says that's not true, or it's just he's just saying it to cover for someone, to keep that competitive advantage that he talks about all the time, whatever it is. But it's not the truth. And you'll even hear him answer a question initially and then completely contradict himself after he talks for 3 minutes unending. So there's a lot of that. I understand it. Yes, I'm with you. It's the things that he said there that's like, gosh, that's not a good look. I'm sure that he doesn't totally buy that. I would hope, because otherwise, oh my gosh, we got other issues. But yeah, I mean, even Jalen says, hey, that's what we were going for. Jeff McClain of the Inquirer followed up the next day, in the press conference. Says, Jalen, hey, here's the play. This is what Sirianni said. Is that what you're trying to do? He's like, yeah, we're trying to go for a pass interference. He did say, now that's not the only thing. You don't just only hope for it. But in that scenario, we're going for the PI. I don't know. There's so many questions with that. I guess it leads into, and we talked about Jalen on yesterday's episode, yesterday's show, but talking about the potential of regression, right? There's all sorts of comments and arguments started on Twitter, certainly after the last couple weeks, and the issues that we've seen. You got the comments like we're talking about too within the press conferences. Is there anything I know play calling plays a factor in it, but is there any regression that we're seeing, or that you're kind of thinking that from what Jalen has done this year as opposed to last season? Where do you fall on that, or how much can we temper that expectation along with the play calling?
I mean, there has to be, because it's not just the play calling. I'm sorry. I mean, we've seen it over time and time again where there are other options. It's just, I don't know if the coaches are making him a one-read quarterback where they're kind of just turning him into Brock Purdy, where like, oh, you just have to throw there. No matter what it says, you have to throw there. And Brock Purdy's doing a hell of a lot better job than Jalen Hurts is right now, because Jalen Hurts is just, he sees on that last play, he saw Julian Love open his hips to the field side and just threw the ball up. And then next thing you know, Julian Love just turned around and did a dead sprint and picked the ball off. These teams know what the Eagles are doing, and their other offensive players like Christian McCaffrey, like I said before, are guessing it before the snap. So it's just like, if they know it, imagine what these defensive coordinators and defensive players are doing, because they're clearly spending more time studying offenses and what they do. So Benjamin Solak mentioned it in the article that you talked about as well, where like, if Dallas Goedert's lined up off the ball, they're doing this play. If they're lined up in a bunch on this side, they're doing this play. It's just so predictable. They have like 5 formations. They have 2 plays out of each formation. It's just a nightmare. And I feel like Jalen Hurts, they're not allowing him to kind of freestyle and do his own thing, which is kind of what makes him so great at times too. But it's just, they can't put him in this box. They kind of have to let him go. But he also has to do a better job when he is being put in this box of making better decisions. So it's just a mix of both. And right now it's not trending in the right direction.
It's frustrating to see. I'm not going to lie. You're right, because he's missed several. Again, we've seen it. You can look at the tape. It takes forever in the pocket. And I think that's, again, a combination of very minimal play calls, very basic, simplistic. But if that first read isn't available and the defense takes it away, then all of a sudden the rest of your routes are long developing. That's what the play call is. So, okay, I'm going to wait. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to sit here. There's my deep shot. Now I'm going to take it. And it just doesn't work. And unfortunately, as we talk about deep shots, Quez Watkins is the first one that comes to mind, because it's in everyone's mind of why on earth did Jalen throw that to Quez Watkins in Seattle? Why on earth does he ever throw to Quez Watkins? Because, Sirianni made the statement of after the game, they asked him what was the thinking there, the reasoning, right? Because they're moving the football down the field. I'm thinking, this is a ball game. We're just going to continue to march our way down the field, run out the clock, or maybe even get another score, but we don't need to get crazy here. And next thing you know, Jalen drops back, launches it deep to Quez Watkins, and everyone knows the interception. But then Sirianni goes, we've hit that before. And then, through some great research, and Shane Haffel was the first one I saw that had posted it, and he has the clips and everything. But Jalen is 0 for 6 with 2 interceptions on 20-plus yards to Quez Watkins over the last couple seasons. So there's nothing on game film. Now, maybe in practice, but I'm sorry, even I had a commenter say that was against James Bradberry, so all bets are off. I mean, anyone's going to be toasting James Bradberry. But Sirianni is defending that. Why on earth is Quez Watkins out there? Should he ever be on the field? Why did they continue to go to? I know there's the speed argument, but it's so infuriating. Where are you at with the Quez Watkins argument or concerns or whatever you want to call it?
For years, if anybody's followed me on Twitter, they know how much I despise Quez Watkins, because one thing I can't stand is just a lack of effort from a professional football player.
Yeah.
It's just not even when he's I think Shane Half pointed it out as well, when somebody else was being targeted, Quez Watkins was kind of just supposed to run a clear out route, and he just gave no effort. He's not using his speed. Nobody's actually threatened realistically by his speed. I know he ran a fast 40-yard dash, but in his career, it's just not contributed to much, because in his career, his 4-year career, he has 5 receiving touchdowns, but then when he's targeted, he's also given up 7 interceptions. So clearly he's not an efficient target. And I mean, if you compare that to Olamide Zaccheaus, who has 1 more year in the league, but they've got a similar amount of targets, he has 10 touchdowns and 3 interceptions allowed. So clearly he's a much more efficient target. I feel like he's just as fast. He actually tries. We've seen him make contested catches this season alone, big, huge catches in huge spots. So, I mean, why would you ever put Quez Watkins on the field? As soon as I saw him being activated on the IR, I was frustrated. I was kind of hoping they were just going to leave him there, because it seemed like things were going so well with that mix of Zaccheaus and Julio Jones. So it was just I knew it was going to happen, because it seems like Nick Sirianni just has this infatuation with Quez Watkins for some reason. I know he coached receivers. He played receiver, so he might see something special in him, but it's just never materialized to anything on an NFL field. And it just seems like every time Quez Watkins is targeted, something bad happens. Even when he catches it, he fumbles it.
Yeah.
So it's just very, very tough. And that's another, like we said with James Bradberry, I want to see Quez Watkins benched, because he needs to sit down, because if they watched that film and saw him running those routes at half speed and then not even trying to break up that interception, how could you put that guy back on the field for another 40-plus snaps or whatever it might be? It's just disrespectful, and it's a slap in the face to not only the fans but the team as well. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. And you mentioned it with Shane Half pointing it out too, with a clear out route. But I talked about it on my show too, and he's literally going to get Smitty killed. He's fortunate that Smitty didn't take a drastic shot, because he's going across and he kind of just half-asses it. He's walking through, and you're like, are you serious? Come on, man. This is the National Football League. You're a professional, like you talk about, giving zero effort or next to none effort. I can't understand it. It infuriates me. I'm right there with you. I'm like, Quez should not be on there. This is long overdue. So hopefully we don't see Quez on Monday. Hopefully we don't see him on Christmas. He could just enjoy the bench, ride that, not get out there or anything on that side. But as we are talking about Christmas, the game against the Giants, curious just to get your thoughts, kind of the keys. You did mention to it, kind of allude as well earlier about what the Giants like to do on defense. Not a great offense either. We have a lot of confidence, or should have some confidence. Maybe we temper those expectations recently, but still, going against the Giants, what do the Eagles need to do? What do you think that they will do to get this win?
I think on offense, just throw it deep, test their secondary, because they're not that great. They've kind of been touchdown prone to big receptions and whatnot. So, I mean, I feel like you could take advantage of their defense as a whole. I know they blitz a lot. It's just going to be a matter of giving them these quick options in the passing game. Jalen Hurts has to capitalize on it. Just do those quick slants to Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown all game. Just spam it all game long, because the Giants shouldn't be able to stop it. I mean, Jalen Hurts could probably occupy one of those defenders on the blitz with his legs, given how good he looked running the ball last week. But he also has to clean things up in the passing game. And on defense, I feel like this should be a get-right game for the defense. I feel like they played well last week. Matt Patricia's, I mean, he has a history against the Giants, given that he was on those Patriot staffs and whatnot. So he's probably looking for some revenge here. But it's just, I feel like the Eagles have all the talent they need on defense. I know they might have some linebackers out and whatnot, but the Giants' offense is just not good. If they can't perform against this team, their problems are much bigger than we think. And this is a game where Jalen Carter could have a couple sacks, Fletcher Cox could have a couple sacks, Hassan Reddick. They can get 6+ sacks in this game as a team easily, because the Saints dominated them, and they're not nearly as talented as the Eagles are up front. So I feel like they should be able to, hopefully the crowd gets into the game and they start rolling early and keep the crowd in the game, and that gets to them. The only thing that kind of scares me is Tommy DeVito does play with that swagger. He can run a little bit. So I feel like if they kind of let him get hot early, that's snowball into other things. Mm-hmm. But I feel like they shouldn't like be able to, because the Eagles defense is just too talented. I think Patricia now with another week of being able to teach guys how he wants things to be done, I feel like it'll only get better. And I'm hoping that it actually materials into a W because they need it bad.
Yeah, got to get back on the winning train again. As we were talking about, winning cures a lot. Whether you fall in the boat of winning cures all or winning cures a lot, Fletcher Cox says winning cures all. So, hey, there you go. You just got to get the win back. Hopefully we're not sitting here next week talking about Tommy DeVito and, how the season is completely over. I would be shocked. I'm not going to lie. Even as crazy as we've seen last couple of weeks, we're like, hey, this is going to be the week. It would be the absolute cataclysmic fall off the cliff. The world is ending. If we're sitting here going, man, can you believe that Tommy DeVito and the Giants just carved us up? So I am expecting a win. Curious to get your take as we wrap up here. Predictions for the game, predictions for the score. Again, I think we're all expecting a win, but you were very close last week on the sad part. I was hoping it was reverse jinx, but you turned out to be almost dead on. So
I didn't want to bring it up.
What do you have this week? Because hopefully we're going to get accurate on this one.
All right, I've got the Eagles winning 23-13. I think, like I said, it should be a get-right game for the defense. I don't know if the offense is just going to blow the doors off and all of a sudden put up 40 points. It would be great to see that, where they win 40-3, but I think 23-13, pretty comfortable lead where they probably lead by like 10 points the entire game or so. That's what I'm hoping. I'm just hoping for a stress-free game, stress-free holiday, and the Eagles get a huge win.
Awesome. Yep. I'm thinking I'm hoping it's going to be stress-free. We haven't felt one of those in a long time, but I'm going to go with a 31-17. I do think that it's still going to be two possessions, should be pretty comfortable, even that's not a late score for the Giants. I hope it's less, really. I really want a defensive performance. As much as, yes, we want from the offense, I'm with you in the sense of, like, Patricia showing everyone, like, we know it was positive, but let's have a complete performance, the defense dominate, and, yes, the offense needs to get going too. But I'm going to say 31-17. So there you go. For those watching, let us know your predictions in the comments below. As always, Anthony, appreciate you joining us. Make sure to go follow, best follow on Twitter. I'm telling you, Outside DiBirds. Also, check out the blog, OutsideDiBirds.com. And until next time, we will see you guys then. But go Birds.
Birds.